Welcome to a profound reflection on one of humanity's most persistent questions. Why do bad things only happen to good people? This inquiry, echoing through the ages, challenges us to look beyond appearances and seek a deeper understanding of human and moral dynamics. Throughout history, we have observed that genuinely good people, those who act with kindness, integrity, and compassion, often seem to face disproportionate adversities. This phenomenon is not merely a happenstance observed in specific cultures or historical periods, but a universal constant that transcends geographical and temporal boundaries. The kindness of these individuals paradoxically appears to make them targets for exploitation. Whether in personal life, the workplace, or broader contexts, the willingness to do good and help others can inadvertently attract those seeking to take advantage of others' generosity. This context sets the stage for a deeper discussion about the nature of human kindness and its implications in an imperfect world. To understand this, I will tell you two stories. In ancient times, a king devoted to the teachings of Buddha decided to radically transform his style of governance. Inspired by principles of calmness and compassion, he adopted these virtues as the pillars of his leadership, seeking to create a realm where peace and benevolence prevailed over force and coercion. Initially, the king's new approach was met with admiration and respect from both his subjects and advisors. However, it didn't take long for this admiration to give way to insidious exploitation. Some began to view the king's compassion as an opportunity to advance their own agendas, manipulating his kindness for personal gain. As news of the king's unwavering kindness spread, leaders from neighbouring lands began to question his ability to protect and effectively govern his people. They interpreted his compassion as a weakness, an open invitation to challenge his authority and even threaten the sovereignty of his kingdom. Internally, opportunists grew in number, and political decisions became increasingly complex, placing the country in a position of growing vulnerability. Haunted by the escalating instability and the problems his compassionate approach had inadvertently caused, the king began to question the viability of his ideals. He wondered if compassion and leadership could truly coexist in a world that didn't hesitate to exploit kindness. It was in this moment of doubt and reflection that he sought Buddha's wisdom, hoping to find a solution that could realign his governance with his values without compromising the safety and stability of the realm. Buddha then told the king the parable of the venomous snake. This scenario serves as a powerful introduction to the complexity of applying lofty ideals in an imperfect world. The story that follows, known as the parable of the venomous snake, offers an enlightening perspective and valuable guidance, not only for the king but for all of us who seek to live according to principles of kindness and integrity in a world that often does not reciprocate in the same way. On a sunny morning in the forest, a monk spotted a fierce snake that was terrorizing the local residents. With compassion and a desire for peace, the monk approached the snake and advised it to abandon its aggressive ways. He taught the snake that true peace comes from within and that living without causing fear to others would be a more virtuous and fulfilling life. Inspired by the monk's words, the snake made the decision to change, adopting a peaceful lifestyle and renouncing the violence that once defined it. It retreated into the calm depths of the forest, practicing the teachings of non-aggression and seeking to live in harmony with the world around it. However, as news of its change spread, the people who once feared the snake began to test its limits. Some villagers, doubting its transformation, started to provoke it by throwing stones and tormenting it, confident that it would not react. The snake, committed to its new life of peace, endured these abuses, but over time, it became miserable and weak. It not only lost its self-respect but also its vitality. Desolate, the snake returned to the monk, sharing the sorrows and difficulties it had faced since adopting the path of non-violence. It questioned the value of kindness and peace, wondering if such virtues only made it vulnerable to the abuse of others. The monk listened carefully, and then responded with tranquil wisdom. "I advised you not to bite, but I never told you not to hiss and show your fangs. Being peaceful does not mean you should not defend yourself." The monk explained that embracing peace does not mean renouncing the right to protect one's integrity. True compassion also includes compassion for oneself, and setting boundaries is essential to maintain both self-respect and the respect of others. The parable of the venomous snake teaches us that while kindness and non-violence are noble virtues, they must be balanced with wisdom and assertiveness. The story reminds us that being good does not mean being passive or allowing others to harm us. We should strive for kindness, but never at the cost of our own safety and dignity. This lesson, as relevant for the snake as for the king, echoes a universal truth about the necessary balance to live a truly compassionate and respected life. At the heart of the parable of the venomous snake lies the monk's fundamental teaching, the importance of balancing non-aggression with self-defense. In instructing the snake, the monk highlighted a profound truth about the nature of true kindness and compassion, that they should not be confused with passivity or submission. While you should not strike, he told the snake, you should also not refrain from showing your fangs when necessary to protect yourself. This teaching underscores that maintaining integrity doesn't just mean living by ethical values, but also ensuring that these values aren't exploited by others. Integrity requires us to be true to our principles, but also wise in how these principles are applied in situations that may compromise our own safety or well-being. The monk clarifies that self-defense is a form of self-respect. Allowing others to take advantage of kindness can lead to the erosion of self-respect and self-esteem, undermining the very principles one seeks to uphold. The snake, by following the monk's advice, learns that inner peace and self-respect are as important as its intention not to cause harm. The monk's teaching reveals a balanced perspective on living a compassionate life. It instructs that we should be kind and avoid causing harm, but this kindness should not make us vulnerable to harm from others. Assertiveness in defending our personal boundaries is crucial and should coexist with our kindness. This principle has direct implications for how we interact with the world around us. On a personal level, it teaches us to be cautious about how our kindness is perceived and exploited. On a broader level, it suggests that in any leadership or influential role, whether as a ruler or an authority figure, compassion must be balanced with prudence and protection of those we serve. After reflecting on the parable of the venomous snake and the monk's advice, the king experienced a transformative moment of clarity. He understood that his initial approach to leadership, while well-intentioned, lacked a crucial balance between compassion and authority. This realization led him to reassess how he could effectively fulfill his royal duties without compromising his integrity or the stability of his kingdom. Recognizing the need to adjust his conduct, the king decided not to abandon his compassion but to complement it with the firmness needed to maintain order and security. He saw that he could be both just and kind, applying justice in a way that respected the dignity and rights of his subjects while also establishing clear boundaries and consequences for those who attempted to exploit his benevolence. In practice, this meant a series of political and social reforms in the kingdom. The king began implementing policies that not only encouraged morality and ethics, but also strengthened laws protecting the common good against abuses. He promoted governance that valued both mercy and discipline, ensuring that compassion never became an excuse for disorder or injustice. The king's new approach reflected a delicate balance between an open heart and a firm hand. He continued to promote and practice compassion in his government, but with a new understanding that true compassion also involves protecting society from the consequences of irresponsibility and opportunism. This not only strengthened his leadership, but also restored his people's trust in his ability to lead with wisdom and justice. Over time, the kingdom thrived under the king's adjusted leadership. The combination of compassion and authority resulted in a more balanced society where mutual respect and justice were valued. The people felt safe and valued, and the kingdom became an example of how effective leadership can harmonize seemingly opposing qualities for the greater good. The parable of the venomous snake and the king's subsequent experience teach us a vital lesson about the nature of compassion and responsibility. These stories illustrate clearly and powerfully that being compassionate does not mean relinquishing one's own power or allowing others to exploit our kindness. On the contrary, they highlight the critical importance of balancing our generosity and openness with prudence and the establishment of firm boundaries. The central morale of the story highlights that while compassion is an admirable and necessary quality, it must be tempered with discernment and self-respect. Setting boundaries is not a denial of compassion, but an extension of it to ourselves and to the social order in which we live. Without these boundaries, compassion can become a vulnerability that others may exploit, leading to outcomes that are contrary to well-being and justice. The story teaches that true compassion includes the wisdom to know when and how to act, preserving both one's own dignity and that of others. This involves recognizing when kindness is being misunderstood or misused and responding in a way that respects the integrity of all involved. Thus, compassion becomes an act of balance between giving and protecting, between opening the heart and strengthening personal boundaries. In the context of daily life, this lesson encourages us to look at our interactions and verify if we are maintaining this balance. Whether in personal relationships, professional settings, or leading groups, the ability to be compassionate while establishing clear boundaries is fundamental to sustaining healthy and constructive relationships. This enables us to effectively help others without harming ourselves in the process. The moral of the venomous snake and king story is an invitation to reflect on how we live and practice compassion in our lives. It challenges us to be mindful of how our kindness is received and perceived, and to adjust our actions to ensure that we are not only good, but also wise and fair. This is a vital skill that can profoundly transform how we impact the world around us. In Buddha's teachings, we find a timeless guidance that deeply resonates with contemporary challenges. It emphasizes the importance of not losing our essence or compromising our core values, but rather adapting our approach as we face different situations and interactions. This flexibility is crucial, especially in a world constantly shaped by new social, economic, and political realities. Buddha's message teaches us that while we should remain true to who we are, our essence, our way of expressing that essence can and should change according to circumstances. This does not mean compromising our integrity, but understanding that different situations may require different forms of action and interaction for us to be effective and true in our intentions. In addition to adapting our approach, Buddha emphasizes the importance of deeply understanding the motivations behind people's actions. This understanding can help us navigate interpersonal complexities and conflicts with greater empathy and effectiveness. By discerning others' true intentions, we can respond in ways that promote understanding, conflict resolution, and ideally positive transformations. In practice, this means that in our daily lives, we must be mindful of how our kindness is received and perceived by others. For example, in professional environments, a compassionate approach must be balanced with professionalism and assertiveness to avoid being seen as permissive or ineffective. In personal relationships, understanding others' emotional needs and limits can help us offer support more effectively and respectfully. This teaching invites us to continuous reflection on how we are living our values and how we can adjust our conduct to better meet both our needs and those of others. The ability to maintain integrity while adapting to the varying demands of life is a skill that promotes not only personal growth but also contributes to collective harmony and well-being.